Hey, Angela MacRitchie, and welcome to the Tick Boot Camp podcast.
Hiya, thanks for having me tonight. Much appreciated.
Yeah, we're really blessed to have you, and just so that folks know, they are detecting an accent, and it's not my accent. I know I have a New York accent, but they're detecting another accent. So, first of all, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from the west coast of Scotland, like kind of as far west as you can go. And I would say I'm kind of middle of the belt, not too north and not south of Scotland. Yeah, middle belt, if that makes
But
sense.
but I do detect a different accent. Having grown up with Scottish folks during my youth, your accent does not sound Scottish. Does that mean that you hail from another region?
Yep, I'm hailed from very south. So I grew up in South Africa. That was, where it all started, and then ended up in Scotland.
All right. So you're a South African who is now living in Scotland.
That's it. Got it.
All right. Well, welcome to Scotland. So,
Uh,
Angela, why don't you first share with our listeners where you currently work?
Okay, so at the moment, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I'm a self-employed practitioner, but what's really great is that I'm part of the CLADE clinic, which stands for the COVID, Lyme, and Infectious Disease Clinic. So we work. The cooperative was set up by Monica Wild, and we basically started off with, it was Monica, and then I joined Monica, and now we've got 7 practitioners. Everybody's a little bit different in their approach, and with Lyme, long COVID, and infectious diseases. So we have a cooperative, and there's 7 practitioners who kind of are part of it,
So
and we raise funds. Those funds we use to support our patients that can't afford care. So we allocate certain amount of funds to our patients that are struggling. So that's kind of the ethos of the cooperative.
And look, I'm excited to hear that you're working with a cooperative because when you have a polymicrobial multisystemic disease,
Yeah,
seems like your cooperative is dealing with, you need to have a
yeah,
cooperative of practitioners or a
yeah.
diverse set of practitioners to treat this. So why don't we let's look at your channel. So specifically, what type of work are you doing within the cooperative to help people who are suffering from these chronic illnesses?
So I went back and studied later on in life. I went back to study, and we'll talk about why. I went back to study with the College of Naturopathic Medicine, and I'm a naturopath, a nutritionist, and herbalist. So I kind of use my ethos is very much that, and I know it's a commonly used word, but I mean it in every sense. It's very much a holistic approach, because it's not just about the herbal antimicrobials or the antibiotics. I think my feeling is there's a lot more to Lyme than just one avenue. You've got to kind of, when you're supporting people, look at all of those pieces that fit together.
So let's
So,
let's dig into your background now and your education. So were you educated in South Africa or were we educated somewhere else?
I was educated in South Africa, and I call it my previous life because I was did something completely different. So I did go to university and do a Bachelor of Science, and then I went and did fashion design, and I ended up for 25 years in the fashion industry. And then, due to my own journey with illness, I went back to study it's actually based in London, the college, but they have satellite colleges at that stage. I was traveling up and down to Manchester to study. They have one in Edinburgh now, which is closer to me. And then I basically squeezed in the 3 courses into 5 years to try and get it. Time wasn't on my side. So I thought I would just get it done, and I squeezed the kind of 3 courses into 5 years. So it was done in the UK.
Okay. So let's talk about your time when you were going to school and you were studying for your bachelor's degree and you began working in the fashion industry. So what
Yeah.
led you to the fashion industry, and how did you think that was going to be fulfilling to you, and how did you think that was going to help you to serve the world?
Well, looking back on it now, I mean, it's not really serving the world. I mean, at the time, it, I did it because I really enjoyed doing something creative. And it was quite funky in those days in South Africa because it was a surf industry and it was a really nice kind of industry to go into. But looking back on it now, I don't feel like it was serving the world. And it got to a point after 25 years where I said, oh crap, this is only dresses we're making. I'm not really making a meaningful impact on anyone's life in the world. So that's what kind of caused the change in a way.
Well, well, let me challenge you on that, Angela, because I think in order for people to be healthy, they need to feel good. And one of the
Mm,
elements of feeling good is feeling good about the way you look. So don't you think you were serving
yeah.
folks by helping them to feel good about themselves when you were giving them something beautiful to purchase and to wear?
Suppose that's a lovely way of looking at it. Thanks, Rick, for kind of putting that slant on it. Because when I look back on it now, I just thought it was a crazy world. But yeah, that is a nice way of looking at it. Thank you for changing that view on it.
Oh,
I suppose
well,
that's true.
I'm
Yeah,
glad. And I think so many people in the fashion industry, because there are so many, unhealthy people that are in
yeah,
I think the commercial element of it, don't always
yeah.
realize that the people who are the end users and who are purchasing the products, the lay people, that they are serving them, and they're serving them very powerfully, because
Mm,
we do need to have a positive image of ourselves, so that we can not be triggered and be healthy people physically, emotionally, and
mm.
spiritually.
No, that's great. And also, you forget because when you're working, I was in surfwear, and when you're working with brands like Quicksilver and Rip Curl, you're selling the lifestyle really as well. It's not just about the garments. So yeah, it's true what you're saying. Yeah.
All right,
Thanks
so
for changing the perspective. So that's
uh,
good. Thank you.
I'm glad we've been able to reframe that a little bit for.
Reframe it. Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
so you went from working in the fashion industry and having this passion for the creative arts to now pivoting because you had your own health journey. So why don't you share with us what was going on with your health, and what was going on that caused you to pivot careers from the fashion industry to the healing industry?
So I did have a lot of health issues when I was younger, and obviously it's always about looking back on it, realizing I grew up in Africa. I used to go hunting with my dad. My dad used to just do small game, guinea fowl and that kind of thing. And I used to be in the bush with him, and looking back on it now, knowing what I know now, I was like, oh my God, very, very obvious what was going on. But when you're going through it, you can't see the wood for the trees, and you don't realize it was kind of like, one thing after another that I wasn't well. I remember when I was around about 19, I think I had like a huge immune crash, and I had to go for immunoglobulin injections and that kind of thing. And obviously just didn't have a clue what was going on at the time. Fast forwarding, I was quite sporty. I was, gymnast for county and that kind of thing. And then I ended up having 6 knee operations. Kept telling me that it was, there was something structurally wrong. Long story. And yeah, 6 knee operations later, I was like, I didn't, the amount of pain was just crazy. It was just crazy. So I ended up on crutches for, I don't know, 2 years maybe. And, bedbound on crutches, just trying to kind of get through day to day, not actually realizing, completely oblivious to what was going on.
So
Um,
let's talk a little bit about your childhood, and we would call
mm,
it here in the U.S. the woods, or the forest, but you were calling it the bush. So when you were going hunting with your dad and you were going into you were going into nature, let's use some
yeah,
term we can
yeah.
all agree with.
Sorry,
Um,
it's a South African word. We call it the bush, but let's talk,
yes, yes.
we
So
talk nature. Okay.
let's talk about what preparations you had taken before you went into the before you went into the bush, you went into nature. Were you wearing any particular type of clothing? Were you wearing any type
No,
of
no. I mean,
bug repellents? Was there anything
not
that you were doing?
nothing at all. And I mean, I grew up in a country where you went barefoot, and we used to run. We were African wild children. We just nobody even thought anything. And I remember clearly in the evenings when we got home, we used to have to stand in the bath with your arms out and your legs open, and your mom had to check you. That's what she did, and then pull ticks off you under your armpits, in your groin, wherever they were, so that we had inspection every night.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that was fantastic, and it was your mother was ahead of her time because she was at least
yeah,
making you be checked, because checking is one of the most important things that we can do to
yeah,
protect ourselves from Lyme disease. And as it turns
yeah,
out, I had a very similar experience during my childhood. We had to undress and we had to check for ticks every night when we came in as well, and
yeah.
I'm so old. That was in the 60s and 70s.
I'm also, I just made it into the 60s, Rick, so I'm not far behind you.
So I guess both of us
Uh,
had enlightened parents. So
yeah.
you did share with us a moment ago that your mom would find ticks on you all the time. How often were you finding ticks on you, and were you taking any steps after finding ticks on you to protect your health, or to protect you from suffering from any diseases that the ticks may have harbored when they were feeding on you?
No, no, nothing at all. I mean, in that our generation, it wasn't, and I remember like when I was perhaps maybe late 20s, there was this wave of what they called in South Africa, they called it the yuppie flu came. And that was like, I think in the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s maybe. And now again, I keep saying that now that I'm thinking about it, like how many of those people actually had Lyme disease and they just thought they had chronic fatigue and overworked and stressed. But
Yeah,
they had a name. The name was called, I don't know what it was like in the States, but in South Africa they called it, that was its name, the yuppie flu,
yeah, we
because it
we,
was
we had the
usually,
same thing.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure they all
So
have Lyme disease. There's no doubt in my
yeah,
mind that
yeah,
all of these yuppie flu and all these Epstein-Barr and all of these
yeah,
fibromyalgia
yeah,
diagnoses were really just
yeah,
misdiagnosed Lyme disease.
yeah. So that was my kind of generation, yeah.
So
And no,
now,
there wasn't any preventative, just like, yeah, if it happened, you just pulled it off and carried on. Nobody even spoke about it. It wasn't.
let's match up your professional outline with now this personal outline. You said that you had a number of different health challenges leading up to the knee injury. What other type of health challenges did you have before the knee injury?
Okay. Before the knee was mainly, as I said, when I think it was 19, and I remember clearly I had to go to the doctor every week to have immunoglobulin injections because I just didn't have any immune system at all. And I remember my mom taking me to, well, I used to go to the doctor every week, but then we also ended up going to a homeopath, and she would try and give me remedies. I mean, it's so vague in my head at the moment, because I can't even remember the exact thing, but it was later on in life, it was things like endometriosis, a lot of cysts. Mine was very much musculoskeletal, a lot of pain, like really a lot of pain. It was quite crazy the amount of pain that I endured. Um, so I think mine was very much kind of a lot of woman problems, fertility problems, and then a lot of it was joints. Mine was very musculoskeletal, which kind of makes sense because it was my weakness. I was a gymnast from young, and I was a ballet dancer, and again, in my day, we didn't wear special shoes. We used to do everything barefoot, and you get injuries, you just get up the next day and carry on. There was no like time to reflect and think, oh, well, I've injured myself. So that was clearly my weakness that the bacteria went for, as we know, goes for your weak spots.
Yeah,
Rich, can I jump in real quick and ask a question? Is that all right? I
yes, of
know
course.
I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
It's not my part, but I want to. So,
Hi,
uh,
Matt. Hi.
hello. So, Angela,
Hey.
I have a question for you because I'm sure you're on top of the research studies and up to date with a lot of this stuff. But just this week, we got a research study that came out of MIT about Lyme disease and the female health and the reproductive system. And endometriosis is something we have heard about on this podcast. Almost every female we've interviewed has said they suffer with endometriosis and severe menstrual cramps and debilitating cycles. And Rich and I very quickly identified this to be a common trait, but there wasn't a lot of evidence behind it. But this study out this week out of MIT is now basically confirming our observations that endometriosis, ovarian cysts, heavy menstrual bleeding, severe cramps, uterine fibroids, and even miscarriages are very common with people who have Lyme disease, especially those with long-term undiagnosed Lyme. So looking back, do you now see that connection? And are you familiar with your study? And can you give us your thoughts on this?
No, totally. And I don't know about the study. I'd like to see it. That sounds really, really interesting. And totally. I mean, when I see Lyme patients, I mean, working in the clinic, this comes up repeatedly, and it's, as you say, it's the cysts. And I've noticed a lot of my patients say to me the week before the cycle, they're absolutely broken. Terrible, like absolutely flawed the week before. So I even try and put in like an extra herbal blend or a mix like the week coming up to the cycle. So we have that blend only goes in, for the week coming up to the cycle because they really, really struggle. I mean, I remember just myself, I used to end up in hospital every month with the amount of pain. It was just absolutely ridiculous. I ended up in A&E repeatedly. So yes, Matt, I'm totally with you there, and I see it a lot in the clinic.
Yeah, and I would say that it's twofold, right? And I'm curious. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say, Angela?
No, I was also going to say, I mean, as we know, it's also to do with Lyme changing the vascular system, because endometriosis is a curious thing. How did cells end up in other parts of the body? It's like it's almost cancerous, really, if you think about it. And as we know, the co-infections in Lyme cause those changes. So it kind of, when you're thinking of it now, you think, oh, actually, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Well, it's so funny.
Been doing so much, reading and research on it. We know it changes the vascular system, the cells, and things move around. So all I can say is it makes total sense.
Yeah, no doubt. And actually, the study, I didn't read this part, but the study was actually done by MIT and the Fred Hutchin Cancer Center because there's so much similarities between cancer and Lyme and endometriosis. So that's actually these groups partnered together to do this study. And, one of the things that highlighted, and you really touched on this, and then I will let Rich pull me back after this question, but you mentioned how you treat people in your clinic. But specifically, this study highlighted two things. The first is the bacteria, not only Borrelia burgdorferi, but other tick-borne infections and opportunistic viruses, et cetera, that invade the tissue of the reproductive system, which cause these types of female health issues. But beyond that, even if these things are at bay by the immune system when people recover, one of the residual symptoms or persistent symptoms, even after treatment people have, are these female health systems, like I mentioned, endo and ovarian cysts and things like that. And I think that's because they have this persistent inflammation in their reproductive system. So I'm curious how do you kind of group those separately? Like you have to go after the infection first and then the inflammation for the female reproductive system. And how do you do that from an herbal standpoint?
No. So what I would do is I would generally kind of almost tackle them at the same time and I would have, say, two blends. One is your antimicrobial blend, and then we might have a support mix which deals with kind of the symptoms that are worrying them the most. And I might put in a third blend or prescription, whatever you want to call it, which might be something, like I said, that they put in, on that week before the period's coming, before they're going to menstruate, just to kind of give them some extra support. So in terms of how we work in the clinic, that's kind of how it's put together. We're still working on the infection in the background. We don't forget about it. We're still working that in the background, and then we're dealing with symptoms, or if there's certain issue that comes up, like I'm saying, like the menstrual cycle, or it could be anything, we might add in a different blend. And then also at the same time, working on perhaps a tea to support, liver detox, because as we know, that's crucial during all of this. So we might put in a tea to have, 3 times a day, and that tea will be like, obviously different herbs in the tea. to support them. And then we have supplements, and all this depends on, I'm very much about what is affordable for the patient, because I was saying to Rich earlier on, we're a cooperative, and, you know, we work very much on kind of trying to raise money so that we can give back to our patients that can't afford care. So we allocate whatever we make. We don't make money on it. Whatever we make in the clinic is given back, and we allocate that to as many patients as we can. You know, that's how we operate in the cooperative.
Yeah, that's a wonderful model. And I want to ask, because if I don't ask this question, I know Rich and I are going to get feedback asking why we didn't ask you this question, which is, you're mentioning a lot of great things about what you do differently, you know, how really you don't treat them differently. You kind of work collectively on all of these issues. But what specifically from an herbal standpoint do you do? If you can give us specific herbs and or blends, and we're okay with you mentioning products, companies, even if it's your own, because we want to share with people good information to help them. And if it's a particular company, your own or somebody else's, we want to hear that. And also the actual herbs that are in those blends that you recommend for these types of things, please.
So Matt, we work very closely with a herbalist that's really old here. They've been going since 1860. I think it's called Napier's. So that's Napier's, the herbalist. We're quite strongly associated with them. We actually use their dispensary to dispense all the herbs. They up in the main shop is in Edinburgh. There's one in Glasgow, and there's also one in Bathgate. They're really old school. It's an old school herbalist. It's absolutely wonderful. Like, it's really cool. And when I was still studying, I did my apprenticeship with Monica Wild, who at that stage, you know, owned Napier's, and I used to mix all the creams and put all the, you know, all the blends together and that kind of thing. So, I mean, that, you know, they've been going a long time. They're a lovely ethos and company. So we use their dispensary to dispense all the herbs. And then in terms of supplements, I use Just Herbs quite a lot. It's called Just Herbs Scotland. They've put together some really good products specifically. It's specifically for Lyme, long COVID, and, you know, infectious diseases. And just to add something here is that we also work with Dr. Lambert, who's an Irish infectious disease professor. He works together with us in the Clade Clinic. That's what the clinic's called, Matt. It's COVID, Lyme, and infectious diseases. So he works together with us through the Clade Clinic. And we have another lady who's, I can't even say a functional medicine doctor. I think she's past that. She's just, you know, wonderful, very overqualified lady who's just amazing. It's called Dr. Mina. She's also with us in the clinic. And then we have MDT meetings every 3 weeks where we all talk about patients, and there might be a patient I want to send to Dr. Lambert, or Dr. Lambert might want someone to come off the antibiotics and start a herbal protocol. So we share a lot of information. And then we also have the 7 of us in the clinic. So if I'm stumped with a patient and I'm not sure what I'm doing, I just say, you know, just reach out on our WhatsApp group, or we have a meeting once a month, and then we talk about things we're noticing that are coming up, or a specific patient. So just to say that before I start. Yeah. So there's a lot of, you know, I was saying to Rich earlier on, I think we're quite ahead of our time in the way that we work. And I was really shocked when I speak to other people, because we didn't realize we were. But then when I speak to other people, I'm like, oh wow, actually we are quite ahead of our time, that we're multidisciplinary, you know. But obviously I'm not a doctor. I only advise on herbs, on supplements, on lifestyle, all that side of things, not on medications. It's not my game.
Right. But I do want to highlight those websites you said, in case people, you know, are listening, want to know. The Napier's is NAPIERS.net.
Yes.
And there's a whole shop section where all of your herbal products are there. And there's a ton of products.
Like tons of products. They've got all the herbs in glyceride form, in tinctures, powders. They've got blends. They've got teas. I mean, it's a minefield.
And Just Dash Herbs. You said Just Herbs, which was JUST-herbs, HERBS.co.uk. And we're going to put these links in our show notes too, right? So, and the good news is it looks like they do ship to the States, correct? These 2 sites?
Yeah, so just yes, Just Herb Scotland is the other one. They do a lot of supplement products, but got a lot of herbs in that are like really good products. So I use their products a lot. It's difficult because when you're doing supplements, you kind of use quite a broad range, but Just Herbs is quite use them quite a lot, and obviously use the Napier's products a lot.
Got it. And we have had Dr. Lambert on the podcast out of Ireland. We've had Dr. Monica
Brilliant.
Wild. We've had Monica Wild, the herbalist, on the podcast as well.
Yes.
So people can listen to them. And it's great that you've partnered with them, because to your point, Dr. Lambert is more of an antibiotic prescription approach, where you're as more a herbal approach. And we believe together, collectively, we need to be open-minded to both sides. And I think that's an important blend that you bring through your clinic. Now, before Rich picks it back up with going through your journey, I just want to ask, when it comes to the endometriosis and the female health, can you give us a couple of specific products that are available through Napier's or the Just Herbs that you'd recommend for people listening suffering from endo or ovarian cysts or just strong menstrual cycles that they can look at on those websites to try to help with some of their symptoms that they're having?
Okay, so if we just go specific herbs, let's have a look. My main go-to, I'm going to give you my main one go-to that I use a lot for anything to do with anything with menstrual, anything with ladies' menstrual cycles that are a little bit out of whack. I use a herb called Vitex agnus castus. Now, the thing with Vitex is that's great is it actually works on the pituitary gland. And anything, and just you have to be careful if ladies are already on HRT and that kind of thing, you can't prescribe it. But I'm just going to get a yeah. So it's just anything. It's like anything it's really good for. It works both ways, and this is the let me say this is the beauty about the herbs. They're not pushing one side of I explain it to my patients like this: the herb will go into the body, because remember, they've been around for millions of years, and I think we don't give them enough credit on the knowledge that they have. But when they're going into the body, you'll find one herb will have 4 to 5 functions, and it will decide what the body needs. So it's a very beautiful way of working. It's a very different kind of approach. So for example, if a lady's got amenorrhea, no periods, struggling, and I see this as well, or they've got dysmenorrhea where they're bleeding every kind of 17 days, or they bleed straight up for 17 days. I just feel like if you wanted one herb and you said, which one would I choose? That would be my go-to.
And that's Vitex, Vitex, correct? Vitex, right? Okay.
Yes. Sorry, we've also got accents here, Matt, so it's not easy. And the second word is Agnes, which is Agnus, Agnes.
Got it.
And Castus. But an easy way to actually say it. Sorry, I'm giving you the Latin names. Being a herbalist, the English name would be chaste berry.
Yep, chaste berry. I'm on your website on Napier's. It's chaste tree berry tincture, right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and that's the Agnes.
That's Vitex agnus castus.
Got it. Okay.
And there's a little story about it. I'm going to find it for you here. There's a little story that the reason why it's called that is because I think that the monks used it. It calms sexual desires, particularly in men. So other name for it is monk's pepper. Just to give you a little bit of folklore on it.
What is the difference between the extract and the straight tincture? There's chaste treeberry tincture and chaste treeberry fluid extract on Napier's website.
So the fluid extracts, Matt, are stronger. So what will happen is you'll have a 1-to-1 ratio, one part of the herb to one part of the alcohol or water. And if it's a tincture, it will be either a 1 in 3 or 1 in 5. Sorry, which means 1 part of the herb to 3 parts of the alcohol, or 1 part of the herb to 5 parts of the alcohol. So it's just a strength. It's the strength.
Got it. Okay.
But generally, we would use tinctures. If I'm going to recommend for somebody to buy, I would use tinctures And I use the fluid extracts generally when I'm making up a prescription for something particular. Just, I would say if somebody's buying it and they haven't used herbs before, go with the tincture.
Okay. And I want to point out how affordable this is. This is $11.18 for a bottle of chaste treeberry tincture, Videx Angus Castus. And I'm probably butchering that name, but I think it's something that's super low risk and super affordable for somebody to try who's struggling. So I think that's a really, thank you for going into the details and sharing those fun stories, because it's super helpful to everybody listening.
Okay, and just, I mean, if anybody wants to know the dosage, often the dosage will be on the little bottles that you buy. But I normally suggest for ladies to take 40 drops first thing in the morning, just in a little bit. You take the herbals in a little bit of water.
All right, Rich, I'll give it back.
So,
I totally asked you I said one question and 17 later, so I'll pause for now.
It's all right, Matt. Don't worry, Matt. We're going to come back to where we were before Matt interrupted us. So on your journey, you were having a lot of struggles. You were dealing with immune dysfunction, and you were and you were dealing with symptomology that included some of these reproductive challenges that you were having. So give me some detail on how you were ultimately diagnosed with immune dysfunction before you started taking some of the remedies for that.
You mean, I didn't actually take herbs at that point. The herbs came really a lot later on.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying that, but you said you did take you did. Yes. So you said you're around 19 years old.
I did go to a homeopath at the time. Sorry, Rich, you're right.
Oh, that's okay. But
I did go to a homeopath at the time. I can't remember at that stage what she gave me, and I think, I think just looking back on it, I mean, I was 19, I'm a lot older now, but, looking back on it, I think it was kind of like, something helped for a little bit and then it took a dive. Then maybe I tried something else and it worked for a little bit and then took a dive again. So there's very much this kind of very up and down, as it happens with a lot of us that had Lyme, is that you seem okay for a while and then there's a drop and then you try something else and then there's another drop in your health. And actually, before I left South Africa, I had so this was the last kind of place that it really tackled me, was in my gut. I mean, even people in the clinic call me the gut queen. My gut was an absolute mess. I remember this is disgusting and sorry to say it, but literally had diarrhea for 2 years and they could not help me. I mean, I was as thin, I don't know what it is in, do you do kilos? I mean, I was I was tiny, maybe about 45 kilos, and they couldn't find what was wrong with me. And then just to go back to Matt, the other thing that happens a lot with Lyme disease is that it goes for the gallbladder, and a lot of my patients have had gallbladders removed. So that's another area. So that's what ended up happening to me, is they said it was gallbladder, and I mean, at that stage I knew nothing of what I know now. And then I had the gallbladder removed as well to try and sort out the constant diarrhea. I mean, there was just nothing staying in. So, so I'm constantly, still to this day, I work on my gut all the time because it's also a weakness.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I went off track there.
So you were taking a traditional approach. You said you used the immunoglobulin you were using.
Yeah.
You were using some other natural medications, but you were still struggling with 2 years of gut issues and diarrhea. So at any point when you were identifying, or the doctors were identifying your immune dysfunction, was there any talk of trying to determine what was causing the immune dysfunction? And if there was any conversation about that, was there any conversations or discussion about Lyme disease?
No, it's not at no point at all. No. And that was when I was still in South Africa. There was no discussion of that at all.
So
go on, Rick. Sorry.
Yes. So let's fast forward now. So you moved from South Africa to the UK, and you're working in the fashion industry in the UK. And so, how's your health after that?
As I say, I think I went through phases where it seemed okay for a while, and then I kind of do this crashing thing, and then I was like okay for a while, but all the way through, all the way through was just the constant pain with my legs and joints. You know, my legs were the worst. The bottom half of my legs were terrible. You know, it was, I mean, the pain was just, if I think back on it now, I don't know how I even managed. And then at some point so when I came over here, I still had, I think, another 3 operations. I still had another three knee operations, and then I was on crutches for just kind of permanently at one stage. And the turning point was, well, the kind of, you know, turning point as in on the medical system, I'm talking the medical system now, was when I had a orthopedic surgeon in Manchester, and he said to me, I'm not touching you again. He said, I want to send you to rheumatology. So they sent me off to rheumatology because they just couldn't work out what was going on here anymore. And I'll never forget, I was in rheumatology, and the rheumatologist said, I've got a student here today. And this young student, I'll never forget as long as I live, she actually took one look at my legs, and she went, you've got an infection. And I said, like, because obviously at the time you don't even realize. And I went, what do you mean? She said, look at the patterning on your legs. You've got an infection. But she kind of spoke to me aside. It was very strange. And I still to this day think about, if I'd listened to what she said, I might have gone down a different route with it. But anyway, I ended up with rheumatology, put me on all kinds of drugs, sulfasalazine. I don't know. I didn't want to take them. I took them in the end. And I must say that they gave me a little bit of light to actually see that I could feel better, because there was some relief in the pain and some relief. So there was, and now I realized that autoimmune response that was going on was clearly due to the Lyme, not, you know, not in the traditional immune diagnosis. And they did diagnose me with rheumatoid arthritis. That was my diagnosis that I got from the doctors. And, you know, and they wanted me to stay on sulfasalazine. And I think over here, you've kind of got a 2-year gap. Once you've been on something for over 2 years, they just lock you into that medicine. So somehow the gods must have been on my side, because before I got to the 2-year gap was when I'd started studying what I do now. And I made a bet with a rheumatologist. And I said to him, I'm going to come off the meds, but I don't want you to discharge me. I want to stay with you, because I want you to kind of watch me. And I said, and I'm going to do a triathlon in 2 years. I'm going to be off the meds in 2 years. And then he said to me, you're bloody crazy. I said, I might be bloody crazy, but let me just stay with you and keep coming every 3 months, because I kind of like felt I still needed somebody to check on me in case, you know, I really crashed. It was kind of like a little bit of a blanket, you know, baby blanket on the side there. And yeah, and then after 2 years, I went back to him and said, you can discharge me now. And that, you know, and that was when I started doing what I was doing. I went totally natural with you know, with what I was planning to take and do to heal.
So I know from doing the background research we did on you that you started to begin to deal with the terrain or your body
Yeah.
at some point, right? And
Yeah.
you gave you know, a really nice presentation on your website about how you started with cold swimming or cold plunging
Yeah.
and swimming, and that was one of the first steps that you. Now, did you start to
Yeah.
take that step to deal with the terrain issues, or you know, or your body's terrain before or after you pivoted away from the fashion industry and you started to study in the healing arts?
It kind of was like I was trying to do the two at the same time, you know, because it was a monetary thing, trying to stay in the fashion game and then try and study at the same time. And then I had to make a call because I knew I couldn't do the two. And it was kind of there's kind of like this overlap period. A girl who had did the same course that I did, needed case studies for, you know, to complete her studies. And that's kind of when the click happened. I started seeing her, and we started doing herbals. We started doing really serious detoxification, not necessarily things I would ask my patients to do, but serious detoxification. And then a friend of mine who teaches Feldenkrais, I don't know if you know it, it's a technique. It's a technique which helps you to move in a way that you don't hurt yourself. It kind of it's very gentle and changes the kind of the only way I can explain is maybe the neuron connections. And she helped me to rehab, but she did it in water with me. So that's how we started the cold water. So this was all kind of maybe happening all at the same time. And I rehabbed with my friend Sam in the water and doing cold water swimming, but it was also just about movements. You know, and kind of, I feel that when you've been in that much pain and you've been you're almost dissociated from your body. I don't know if, you know, with Lyme patients, there's this kind of a little bit of a disconnection. So that brought me back to realize actually the physical body, it's to trust it again, you know, because you lose that trust when you've been that ill, you know.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, okay, you got this. The body knows what it's doing. Trust the body, you know. So that's quite difficult when you know.
So I just want to summarize this piece of the conversation. So you had many years of health issues where you had this ebb and flow of some healthy times or some pain-free times, and then you'd get sick again. Then you would have some relief, and then you get sick again. You were going up and down and up and down. Your medical doctors in South Africa had identified that you were suffering from immune dysfunction. There were some efforts to try to rebuild your immune system. It wasn't successful. You moved to the UK. You're undergoing surgical procedures, gallbladder removed, additional knee surgeries, and then finally you get to this place where you understand that you're sort of spiritually removed from your body. Your spirit didn't trust the safety of being in your body. And when you started to now work on the terrain, when you started to work on the body, your spirit sort of reunited with your body, and now you went on your healing journey when everything came back together. So talk to us about the next things that you did after you were doing the swimming and the movement. You were doing the more gentle types of exercises. What other things were you doing to rebuild the terrain so that you could go forward with healing from this, what had been, you know, lifelong medical issue?
Yeah. So huge changes to the diet. I mean, the diet was, you know, I've always said I'm a naturopath, so medicine is food. And then this all kind of also started coinciding with me starting to study. So I'm learning things and then applying. It's learning and applying. And I did a lot of, I did with that previous herbalist that I was telling you about, I did a lot of detoxification with her, like really a lot, and sometimes quite intense. You know, we would do a lot of herbs. And at the time, I didn't realize what she was doing, but a lot of herbal formulas, a lot of detoxing, a lot of fasting, and sometimes quite extreme fasting. I remember I did like a 3 weeks of serious detox and not eating much, mainly liquids. And then you kind of almost have to go back, wean yourself back onto food. And not something just because I did it, it's not something I necessarily recommend to my patient. Everybody's different, everybody's unique. You've got to go at the pace that the person can do things. And I think also with you know, and as I was saying this to you earlier on, you know, I'm a big believer in that it's mind, body, spirit. You know, you know, recovering from Lyme is just not only a physical thing. There's a lot that goes on, you know, spiritually, emotionally. You know, it's a great teacher in a way. It's a great teacher, Lyme disease, you know.
It certainly does.
We don't feel like, we don't feel like that
disease,
at the time, you know.
So I'm sorry. So talk to us more specifically about what you were learning in your coursework and what you were doing to bring that back to your healing journey. Give us some specifics on that.
Okay. So, you know, I did a year of biomedicine. So that was obviously learning the body, understanding all the body systems, you know, just going through specifics on each body system. And then I did 3 years of nutrition. I'll just give you the whole thing and then I'll talk it through. Then I did, and this is all running concurrently. I did 3 years of herbal medicine and I did 2 years of naturopathy. So I just ran the courses kind of alongside each other. And the naturopathy I love because it's got a lot of kind of maybe some crazy detox detox principles. For me, I think the detox was a really big thing, like, coffee enemas, using tissue salts, also using Bach flower remedies. Again, Bach flower remedies are very much about emotional support. I also did a lot of healing work with a healer I was working with in Manchester as well. So I was doing that all at the same time, because I just felt like, again, it's not just a one-dimensional thing. Very much diet-wise, diet was cleaned up, like really, really cleaned up. I did a lot of like anti-inflammatory diets. I'm not vegetarian, but my diet was mainly veggie, just really cleaning it up. No, no cutting down on the sugars. I'm a big believer, cut down the carb, cut down the sugars. So, just go for mainly veg on the plates. Protein is key. The carbohydrates comes last. So that was kind of the principle of it. If you want me to get specific, it's mainly vegetarian. I'm not veggie, but that was the principles of it. Mainly anti-inflammatory diet. But it was doing a few things at the same time. And then I was also doing a lot of the detox work, and also seeing a healer and speaking to somebody, because I think that's really key in this process as well.
Now, when you say speaking to someone, you're speaking to someone to help you with the mindset and the mental health elements,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you, okay.
both. So there was two sides to it. One was talking about it, and this, the fact that you're on sticks all the time. I was a gymnast. I mean, I was super active, and then I'm on sticks. It's so frustrating, and yeah, and also and then, so that was one angle of it. And the same person I did some healing work with, which consisted of reflexology, the talking side of it. There was some crystal healing involved. So very, very, very multifaceted, in the approach, very much, all the areas were covered. Um, and very much trying to understand why, which is what we all ask. Why did I get it? Why am I struggling? Why am I suffering with so much pain? I mean, it's terrible.
So that was asking the spiritual questions about why
Yeah,
for me, and how is this going to change me so that I will be a better person as a result of going
yeah.
on this journey, right? So
And
because
and then, and the moment of truth came when I started working in the Lyme clinic, and then realized what actually had been going on, and talking to my patients. And I'm going, does the pain do this? And does it go like this? And is it here? And they're going, yes, yes, yes. Like, how do you know that? I'm like, oh my God, this is like, it's just clear as day, like the pattern and everything. I mean, I know everybody's different, but just, a lot of things you can kind of share. There was the female thing, there was the gut things, this intense pain all the time, and then also just understanding how you were feeling mentally. And I know everybody feels different about it, but it's that frustration,
so Angela,
feel
you've
deep
now shared with us
frustration.
that you're working in a Lyme clinic, and you start to see some similarities between Lyme patients who are diagnosed with Lyme disease and all of the different symptoms that you were feeling over the years before
Yeah.
you went to that clinic. And Matt is going to take you through that portion of your journey in a minute, but I do want to explore one thing with you. One of
Okay.
the things we've observed here at Tick Boot Camp is that most of the people who have been successful in overcoming chronic Lyme disease have gone through a process of prehabilitation, where they've gotten themselves ready to ultimately kill the bugs, meaning they've gotten the terrain ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, we see this take form in folks identifying the belief systems or the mindset that wasn't serving them.
Yeah.
We see
Yeah.
folks dealing with their dietary issues and some of the challenges that we have with certainly here in the U.S., the modern American diet.
Yeah.
Dealing with their sleep challenges, and in many cases, people are not sleeping for various reasons, but identifying
Mm-hmm.
these challenges, making sure they are getting movement and healthy movement as
Yes.
opposed to unhealthy movement.
Yes.
Um, of course, this detoxification process, which is not just a physical detoxification, but also a social detox, where they're careful about whether or not they're spending time with energy vampires who are sucking energy out of them because they're
Yeah.
not healthy people, or engaging in healthy practices such as maybe taking a step back from social media or certain types of social media.
Yeah.
Um, and then, of course, identifying whether or not their environment is causing them to be sick. And that
Yeah.
environment
Yeah.
could be because they're living in a moldy environment. It could be
Uh,
because of the types of products they're using on their body, whether it's
yeah.
deodorants or
Very,
makeup
very
or
important. Yeah.
hair products. But
Yeah.
largely just sort of like dealing with this understanding that we're living in a toxic soup. And some of that is spiritual, some of that is physical, some
Yeah.
of it is emotional, and then we have to sort of cleanse that whole
Yeah.
terrain so that we can then
Mhm.
take the next step and kill the bugs, and then kill them in a way that will allow us to get all of the the byproducts of these killed bugs out of our system. So
Yeah.
it sounds to me that you were going through a rehabilitation process, even though you didn't know it. You were just
I
sort of
didn't
doing a
realize
little
it at the
more.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with my clients now, I mean, we might spend the first appointment literally doing cleanup. I don't touch nothing. I just literally spend the first appointment cleaning everything up, going through the diet, going through, as you say, what products you're using, what are you doing in the house, what are all of those things. That's key. Just the first appointment might just be, let's just clean everything up. Let's just clean the slates, and that might take 2-3 appointments.
Yeah,
Um,
or even more,
and
right?
you might just give gentle things in the background while you're working on that. So you're still supporting some systems in the background, but your main focus is just cleaning up the act. I call it cleaning up your act,
All right.
which is,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure I'm in love with the cleaning up the act
No, I know you
term,
wouldn't like that. I know you wouldn't.
but I do think defining it as prehabilitation sounds a little less judgmental than cleaning up
Yes, no,
your
no,
act.
I know. I think it's just the harsh South African way.
So
But no,
tell us.
I love your words better. I'm going to steal them. They're much better than mine.
Great. I'm happy to have a lawyer share some terms with a healing professional. So
Uh,
so maybe people will like us lawyers a little bit more if we can lend language to more
yeah,
healthy descriptions of things. So Angel, before I turn you over to Matt, who's going to now talk to you about your Lyme journey and your the epiphany that you had Lyme disease. As you were going through the steps of what we're now going to call Angela's prehabilitation, and you were detoxifying, and you were moving, and you were cleaning up your diet, and you were identifying challenges in your environment, and maybe even
yeah.
beauty products or any of these other things that
Mhm.
might have been creating more toxicity in your body and causing you to have these chronic flare-ups. Were you getting better as you were taking each step in this process? Were you feeling yourself getting healthier, and were you having more sustained health as you were taking these prehabilitation steps?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I could feel it, and almost like at one stage, I remember I was, and I'm just going to cover the point that you mentioned about the not moving and moving, because I found that I was told not to move. And for a long time, I didn't move. And I feel like that's the worst thing I did. And then when my friend Sam, she's a British triathlete, when she said, come on, let's go in the water together. Um, it was like I did feel my body almost coming alive. Like it's a very strange and sounds maybe very dramatic, but I really did. I felt like, wow, I'm actually starting to feel alive again as you saying, it was the pre-stages of, doing all the cleansing, starting to move again, eating better, all of that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
It was very, very clear.
and it's really important, right? In order for us to be able to detoxify, we need to move, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And our brain is telling us not to move because Lyme disease is this energy, this our brain is an energy hog.
sex.
Our brain always
Yeah,
wants to limit our movement so that we use as little energy as possible. But because Lyme disease is so effective at attacking, our cells,
hmm,
and it limits the amount of energy we have. We have this combination of the bugs zapping our energy, and we have our
yeah,
brain telling us to preserve energy, right? Everything is causing us to feel like we should remain stable, we shouldn't move. And then of course you're hearing the same thing now from some of the medical professionals you're working with, or the healthcare professionals you're working with, right?
yeah,
So that's reinforcing the behavior that's not serving you. And it wasn't until you broke out of that sort of set of circumstances that you started to improve because of the movement that started with you swimming, and actually there's the cold plunging element as well, which
And
helps you
the
emotionally.
cold, I cannot tell you how much the cold water, it was, yeah. And even to this day, I mean, on Sunday morning, I will be going into the loch, the lake, just it's 10 minutes down the road. It's absolutely freezing at the moment, but it just, you go into the water and everything else, everything becomes silent. It's just amazing. And I'm just such a great believer in the cold water, because that's how my kind of journey started with getting better. It really made a huge difference.
So let's talk about
And
that
at the
piece.
time, it wasn't the days when it was when Wim Hof was around and it was kind of funky and trendy to do it. I mean, we used to swim in the ship canals in Manchester. They started cleaning up the ship canals. I mean, this is, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe. So, you know, it was in the day when we used to go there on a Saturday morning and there was maybe 5 of us swimming. And then years and years later, you go there now, you can't even get in. It's just crazy, like busy, you know. But yeah, it really made a huge difference. Yeah,
All right, so let's talk about you started to touch on it again when after Matt brings you through your Lyme journey. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk to you about the transformational elements of this journey for you. But I want to focus a little bit more on the swimming, right? Because you did suggest that Lyme disease is a physical disease, it's an emotional disease, and it's a spiritual disease, right? The Lyme is very effective at having a better understanding of us than we have of us, right? I mean, this bug has been feeding on us for millions of years, and it has evolved to the point where it's very effectively attacking us and stealing our resources from us and feeding on us physically, right? I mean, it's doing all those things. So talk to us about how the swimming helped to calm your brain so that you are emotionally healthier, and how the swimming in the cold water also helped you to sort of bring your spirit back into the body and trust the body, and how that was an important element of your physical, emotional, and spiritual journey.
Well, I feel that like in everyday life, you know, our minds are just talking all the time. It's noisy. There's a lot of noise going on in there, you know, and sometimes it's negative noise. You know, hopefully we can change it and speak more kindly to ourselves. But, you know, there's a lot of noise going on in there. And for me, I just find that there's a few things going on. Is one, when, as I said, when I get into the water, that noise goes off. I don't really know the physiological exact mechanism of it, but I find that the noise goes off. It just becomes very silent, and all that I have is the beauty of the lake, the beauty of the mountains, and literally I don't have any noise coming in. So there's that sense of calm that you have. There's that moment where you just got nothing. It's peace.
Yeah. So Monica, I'm
We're
calling you
not
Monica. I'm
fighting
sorry,
with
Angela.
ourselves. We're not, you know.
Angela, I'm mixing you up with another herbalist from the UK. So Angela, now of course, what's happening is our body is being attacked by these bugs, right? And our survival software is now being triggered. And because our survival software is being triggered, the voices that we hear in our head, which we think are ours, are not. This is just survival software, right?
Yeah.
And the sicker we get, and the more these bugs are attacking us, both externally and internally, the more noise there is in our head, right? And unfortunately, we don't understand that it's survival software. We don't understand that it's not our words.
Yeah.
We don't
Yes.
understand that it's just the function of our brain. It becomes overwhelming, right? And one of the things that you were able to do, because you were in this cold water and you were in nature, is you were able to calm your brain down, right? And because you're able to calm your brain down and calm down all this chatter that's going on, all the monkeys in our brain
Yeah.
going at us, right?
Yeah.
That gave you emotional relief, right?
Yeah.
Give us the spiritual piece, but before Matt takes
And I'm
you.
just going to, before I go to the spiritual bit, what I'm going to say is that there's also the thing of, we know what happens in cold water. You know, you've got it, it's giving you it's also giving you the hit of, they say when you do cold water swimming, it's the same hits as taking an antidepressant, you know, and we've got, you know, that mechanism going on in the background as well. So there's also the feel good factor. And that also helps you when you're coming out of the water to feel like, you know what, I'm feeling good. I can do this. You know, it gives you that boost of confidence, you know, as well.
Well, and
So
let's explore that a little bit, right? Because we have stress hormones, and then
yeah,
we have, of course, we have the feel good hormones, right? And the one of the things, of course, that's happening is that when we're being attacked, and our brain is presenting in the sympathetic expression of the nervous
yeah,
system, what's happening is we have
mm,
all kinds of stress hormones that are
yeah, the
teeming into
cortisol,
our,
yeah,
right. So
yeah,
and the cortisol receptors, of course, are causing adrenaline and to teem into our system. And one of the beautiful things about cold plunging, and I take a cold shower every morning, is that
yeah,
it causes you to get some of the feel good chemicals, right? The
yeah,
dopamines and the
yeah,
oxytocin, serotonins, and the endorphins, right? So now what you're doing is you're slowing down all of the stress hormones from being sent
yeah,
into your bloodstream, and now you're bringing in some of the feel good hormones, and that's giving your HPA axis some
yeah.
relief, right?
Some time relief, time to rest. Yeah,
Which is fantastic, right? Because we do know that when we have adrenaline teeming into our system all the time, it retards our cortisol receptors, and
yeah,
I know you herbalists have some tools to help us to modulate our cortisol
yeah,
receptors, but we get stuck. We get stuck in with having
yeah,
all these stress hormones teeming through our system. And
yeah.
it's very painful, right? It is very painful. So that. Thank you for sharing. That's an important piece right now. So before Matt takes
So
over, give
I
me.
was just okay. You finish, and I was going to say because we've got some great herbs for the HbA access. You're
Oh no,
great.
so please share them. I mean, that's something we always like to focus on here at Tech Boot Camp.
Yeah. So so first and foremost is I'm a biggest fan of ashwagandha. It's actually an Ayurvedic. It's not a Western herb. It's I've studied Western herbalism, but it's you've got ashwagandha, which is amazing. I mean, it's again, and as I said earlier on, it's the herbs going into the body and seeing what the body needs, and that's why it's called adaptogenic. It adapts. It's not pushing, it's not pushing the body. It's kind of going in and saying, okay, what does the body need? It's adaptogenic herb, and that works on the HPA axis. We've got loads. I mean, there's absolutely tons of different adaptogenic herbs, but so we're talking about the HPA axis. That's what I would give to support somebody.
Ashwagandha, right?
We've
And
got
ashwagandha will serve as a modulator, right?
yeah, and it will help with sleep. You were talking about sleep earlier on. Ashwagandha is lovely herb for supporting sleep. And it also, a lot of the guys in the gym use it because it's got a lot of research now saying that it helps with like anabolic strength. So a lot of the gym boys are using it in the gyms for endurance. But it's also very important in Lyme. We need that. We need some strength. We need some endurance as well. So there's a lot of reasons why it's a nice herb. I mean, that's just one of them that we use.
Angela, real quick, which one would you recommend? I'm on the Napier's website, again, napiers.net, right? And you have
Yeah,
ashwagandha root tincture, you have, which is Withania samifera, you
yeah.
have Napier's ashwagandha root powder, you have Verdian organic ashwagandha. There's a whole bunch of products. So which one would you
Yes,
recommend to our Lyme community for people who are struggling with sleep, also nervous
yeah,
system dysregulation, or just anxiety, all those kind of things? I think
yeah.
you can benefit from ashwagandha, but which blend specifically on your website would you recommend here?
So Matt, my favorite is, this is what I normally use, is I use the powder form. And then what I would suggest is that, we were talking about detoxifying from, all phones and all of these things, all these environmental factors. I would suggest, that people switch off the phone, make themselves a lovely drink with ashwagandha powder using a nut milk. You can add in nutmeg into it because nutmeg really helps with sleep. You can add in like a chai flavoring, make it into a nice warm drink. Perhaps you can add in some a little bit of coconut oil because it's good to have oil with the ashwagandha for absorption. And, go and, kind of have your chill down time before you're going to go to bed. Do your detox from your you know, from the TV, the mobile phones, all this kind of thing, the computer. So that's how I would suggest to have it. But there's many ways you can take it, but I think that's, you know, it's powder form. It's going to be absorbed quite easily, and then it's going to help you to unwind. I mean, the other really lovely thing about the tinctures, Matt, just to say this, is that the reason why they're also great is because they're going in through the mucous membranes. So if we've got really serious gut issues, and you've got that, you know, you're struggling to absorb, you know, digestion, absorption, all of these kind of things, the herbs are fantastic because they're going in through the gums. You're bypassing the guts. So
right, but with the ashwagandha powder, that would I think you're
Mhm.
recommending the tincture if somebody has a really bad gut. But if not, you recommend the
I would
powder.
do I would do the
Right?
powder as well. But I'm saying if you had a choice between capsules and powder or capsules and tincture, and you've got a compromised digestive system, I would go with either powder or tincture, is what I'm saying.
Oh, powder or tincture, but capsules may
Tincture,
not work
yes,
so well if you have a
yes,
gut issue. So powder is
yes,
better than capsule. Okay, got it.
yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts about? So I guess I have several questions on the ashwagandha. The first one is there such a thing as too much ashwagandha? Because, for example, I take Dr. Rolls's Restore Kit and also his
Mhm.
adaptogen and his, you know, HPA balance. If I were to take another ashwagandha product, you know,
Mhm.
periodically for stressful environments, is there such a thing where I can almost like overdose or take too much and have negative consequences from too much ashwagandha, if that makes sense?
I don't know how much is in the Rawls product, Matt, but you know, if I was giving powder, I would give a level teaspoon. So that would be about 5 grams a day.
Okay, so about 5 grams a day is what you recommend for
Yeah, 5
ashwagandha.
grams a day is what I would do. Um, I haven't, to be really honest, I'm just trying to think. I've never had anyone, yes, I have actually. I have had a patient say that ashwagandha gives him very wild dreams, like
Hmm,
crazy stuff going on. I have had a few people saying that, and it's not because of the dosing. It's just because, you know, not everything is for everyone. You have to listen to what your patient tells you. I have had a few where they said that ashwagandha makes them a bit crazy at night. So we just take it off. It's not for you, you know, just take it away. But that's not a dosing issue. It's more, it just doesn't suit everyone. You know,
got it.
not everything is for everybody. That's why the way we work at the Cade Clinic is really lovely. We don't have products that you take off the shelf. We do, I'm lying. We do have some pre-blends at Napier's, but when we're making a herbal mix, it's individual. It's made on what that individual needs. Whether you're doing a antimicrobial blend or whether you're doing a support blend, you're listening to what the patient's telling you, because as they're talking to you, a herb will tell you which herb needs to be used, and each one might be slightly different, you know.
Got it. Got it.
It's very
Now,
bespoke. It's a bespoke thing, but I'm contradicting myself because there are products that we use that are pre-blended. But what I'm saying is that a lot of what we do is we make bespoke blends for people. It's not just a range of products that everything's off the shelf. And for example, the Just Herbs supplements, I mean, those are off the shelf. But I'm talking about if we're making blends for people, they're very personalized.
okay. So that it's good to know because I've heard people say that they haven't had a good effect from ashwagandha, and maybe it just needs they need
Mm-hmm.
more, or you know, more of it, or some people that are
Yeah.
more sensitive to it. So there's not such a thing to be worried about taking too much to try to get some benefit
Yeah.
there. So
No,
the other piece is
and with every Lyme patient, when they start, I always say go low and go slow. With every Lyme patient, when they start a protocol, I always say go low, go slow. Let's do this slowly, and we build it up. Don't even with the tinctures, don't go in guns blazing. You know, take it slow. Just listen to the body. You know, even if it means you stay on 10 drops for 2 weeks, that's fine. We'll do this slowly and build it up slowly. You know, listen to what the body's telling you.
now, what are your thoughts about cooking with it, right? So some people like to use, especially the powdered stuff, like to, you know,
Yeah.
bake with it, put it in maybe overnight oats, things like that. Is it going to lose effectiveness if you're putting powder-based products and powder-based herbs in either baked products that are cooked in an oven or things like overnight oats that are mixed with maybe a healthy, you know, fruit and honey kind of overnight
Yeah.
oats model?
I mean, I would rather do the kind of overnight oats, but I do mix the ashwagandha in with warmed up oat milk or almond milk, like a nut milk. We do, you know, I do suggest to do it like that, but I wouldn't. I don't know. It's a tricky question. Would I use it if we're gonna like proper cook with it. I mean, you can make things with it. It's a herb. It's a spice at the end of the day as well. I don't see why not.
Okay. And what's
I
interesting
don't
is
see why not.
I'm doing some research here, and for Rich and anybody who uses the Vital Plan products, ashwagandha, if you're taking it's not in the Restore Kit. I stand corrected. It's only in the HPA Balance,
Yeah.
but it's 225 milligrams in 2 capsules. So if you're only taking it once a day, you're only getting 225 milligrams.
Yeah.
And you're suggesting up to 5 grams,
5
which is
grams.
5,000 milligrams, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So I think I might buy some of that the powdered version and start trying that to see if I can get some extra stress relief
Try
on my
that.
extra stressful days. Rich, we should try that and report back. So
Yes, please do. Please do.
yes.
Let me know.
Amen. Let's do it, Matt.
All right. So now let's go back to your journey, Angela. Talk to us more about your Lyme diagnosis and what you did to treat yourself. And thankfully, you have all this knowledge, and now you're able to help other people in the Lyme community. But before we get into more of the cool stuff and how you can help people, tell us about your own personal experiences.
Well, Matt, I didn't actually get a diagnosis at all. I've never had a diagnosis. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis wrongly. But I mean, another thing to say is when they did all my bloods, they were all negative for rheumatoid factor and ANA and all of those sort of things. But that's what I was diagnosed with. So to be honest, I've never had a diagnosis of Lyme.
Okay. Now, do you think you had it and just never tested positive or never looked for it? What are your views here? Like, where do you stand in that regard?
I'm not bothered about getting tested because I really feel that I'm 110% sure, because I work with this every day now, and I'm 110% sure. However, I feel that some people need the testing for themselves. And I even say this to patients that come, if you want to spend the money, spend the money on it, but it's expensive. We use almond labs. It's a lot of money. And if you feel that that's going to give you peace of mind to know the exact diagnosis, we can do it. But with herbal medicine, you don't have to have an exact diagnosis, because we know that, for example, we're using antimicrobials. I'm going to give you an example here. If you use a herb called cryptolepis, we use it a lot. We use it a lot. It's Ghanaian quinine. And Monica actually arranged that we have a herbalist in Ghana that supplies us. So it's also about looking after other herbalists and other communities as well. And cryptolepis there's some studies with cryptolepis where it was put in a Petri dish and it didn't matter what was in there. So did it matter that it was Borrelia? Does it matter that it's Babesia? Does it matter that it's Anaplasma? It didn't matter. So I'm saying get tested if it's going to give you peace of mind to know, have I got, Borrelia burgdorferi? Have I got sensulate? Have I got Afzali? Have I got Anaplasma? Have I got Babesia? Have I got Bartonella? For me, that wasn't important. But for some people it is. So you have to follow what the person needs and what will give them peace of mind.
I love that answer, because to your point, the testing is not great. You're going to spend a lot of money with a specialty lab like Armin Lab, who we love. Armin Lab. We've had Dr. Armin on. Brilliant man. We absolutely love him. But, you can use your money in other ways for things that can help you, right? And I love your website. And I keep going back to napiers.com napiers.net. It blows my mind how affordable your products are to buy things. And we've had a lot of people on. And and these things are really, really affordable. Going with your mission statement from earlier, you're really trying to do this and help people at an affordable model, right? So specific to cryptolepis, I like we've heard other herbalists share this and other naturopaths share that cryptolepis is sort of a broad spectrum antibacterial, antiviral, antiparasitic, right? And it's known to kill not only all strains of Borrelia, but other things like Babesia, Bartonella, etc. So on your website, because what I'm doing is, as we're talking, Angela, is I'm bookmarking all these products and I'm going to link them in the show notes. So anybody listening can look in the show notes and click on specifically the ashwagandha, right? The chaste treeberry tincture, the Vitex agnes castus for the female hormone issues, right? So what product specifically? Because again, there's a lot of products on your website, but it can be overwhelming to somebody. So is it cryptolepis root tincture? Is it the cryptolepis root, the capsules? Is it the cryptolepis root glycerite? Which one would you recommend on your website that people try for a broad spectrum, antimicrobial when it comes to Lyme,
So a lot of Okay, so here's a couple of answers to that. A lot of Lyme patients are quite sensitive to the alcohol. So we either show them how to burn it off. It's not going to get rid of all of it, but it's going to burn off a lot of the alcohol. And in that case, you might give somebody a glycerite instead. Or if somebody hasn't got any problems with alcohol, they can take the alcohol tincture. And then if you look at if you have to buy a bottle for the month, sometimes to get the capsules is cheaper.
Got
So
it.
it
So
might
you're
work out
saying,
cheaper, right? So it depends on what we're doing, and it depends on kind of the person in front of you. You know, are they okay with the alcohol? I might say just go with the alcohol one. If they're very, very sensitive, I might go glycerites, or I might just say let's just go with the capsules, and you can actually open up the capsules and put them, you know, put them into water in that way if you want. There's quite a few ways you can do it. But this is where it becomes, and I hear you, Matt, it's tricky because not everyone will know that if they go on the website, they're like, what do I choose? You know, this is where it's helpful if there's a herbalist to explain it.
and of course, we'd recommend people work with you directly and work with an herbalist for sure. So a lot of this is to learn. And, you know, we caution everybody to be careful working independently, you know, and if you do have a doctor, consult with your doctor, because I think, Angela, people could work with a naturopath and still buy products through napiers.net, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, like, you know, like we do, we work with Dr. Lambert, they're taking, you know, they're taking antibiotics, and, you know, you're working with, sometimes I'm working with somebody who's seeing 2 other practitioners and they're seeing us. And it does sometimes get a little bit tricky, but, you know, you can do it. They can be working with, you know, Dr. Lambert, they might be working with somebody else and myself. Sometimes they're working with Dr. Lambert, they might be seeing a nutritionist elsewhere, and then they come just for the herbs. So again, it's there's not one straight answer. Yeah.
And just to repeat, so the glycerite is a non-alcohol based tincture for people who are alcohol sensitive. The cryptolepis root tincture is for people who can handle the alcohol base. And then the capsules might be more affordable if you need a higher concentration or more. It might be more affordable to buy the capsules. And I'm going to link to those in the show notes as well for everybody too.
Fair, Matt. And the other thing to say is that if they want to try the alcohol, they're not sure, there is a process that you can burn it off, you know, putting it into a bain-marie. So you could so what you're doing is take a bowl with boiling water, you pour your tincture into a little glass, you put that glass of tincture into the boiling water and you let it sit in there, and it burns off the alcohol. It won't take it all out, but it reduces it substantially.
Great. That's a super helpful tip. Thank you. So,
no worries.
Angela, what else have you done on your own personal experiences? What have you done from an herbal standpoint? You know, obviously you've never had a positive test, but you're very confident you had Lyme and you were unwell with some infections. What did you do to help regain your health? Was it cryptolepis? What specifically did you do?
Oh, that's a difficult question in terms of the herbs. I didn't use cryptolepis at the time. I think I was more the kind of the Japanese knotweed stage. So that's a main one that we use a lot. I didn't use any crypto. I only found out about crypto later on.
Yeah, and Japanese knotweed is another one though, right? That has been proven by a lot of these studies to be super antimicrobial and broad spectrum too. So it makes sense. And again, same thing. You have your tincture and your glycerite for Japanese knotweed on napiers.net. Your glycerite is, you know, out for people with alcohol sensitivities, and your tincture is for people who are not. So it's same idea there, right? With the, and then of course you have your capsules. Same with
and there's capsules as well. Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, the thing with the thing with Japanese knotweed, it is very broad spectrum, but it also slows down the cytokine cascade, you know, the whole inflammatory cascade. It's really known for that. So it's fabulous in terms of its anti-inflammatory. And what else about it? I'm just trying to think. I think also I use Japanese knotweed because it's really good for like rheumatoid and joint, like a lot of rheumatoid, that kind of picture, and a lot of joint pain. It's good for that as well. And funnily enough, I know a lot of people use cat's claw for that. I don't use cat's claw a hell of a lot, I must say. But a lot of people do. I know I have a lot of patients that come with joint pain and they're using cat's claw, whereas I was using more Japanese knotweed for that, because it's quite good for the, you know, the kind of that rheumatoid picture of pain, you know.
Yeah. So is there anything else you did for yourself that helped you, whether it be from an antimicrobial standpoint, detox, pain, gut, autoimmune, you know, endometriosis, etc., that you want to share with our listeners that helped you from an herbal standpoint, or just in general, things that you can recommend to our listeners?
Okay. So the thing I found really helpful with the endometriosis is a supplement called serapeptase. And you know, I think serapeptase is becoming a little bit more difficult to find these days, because they're starting to ban it now. So it might be a little bit more tricky, but one of those kind of ilk, that family, like nattokinase, serapeptase, I like serapeptase. And I was taking 250,000 IU first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. And it's very good at breaking down scar tissue. So when we've got the endometriosis, we've got a lot of scarring, you know, as we know, there's a lot of scarring going on inside. And then the trick with the endometriosis is they can't really tell if you've got it unless they go in. This is my understanding here. So every time they're going in, they're just making it worse. I mean,
they're creating more scar tissue, right? So every time they go in, they're creating more scar tissue, and they're making the problem even worse, just to determine you still have it, and they're worsening the problem. So that cycle becomes an issue.
So I think I've had 4 procedures just with endo. So, you know, the amount of scar tissue in there is ridiculous. And then I've got all the scar tissue from the other ops. I mean, you know, it's crazy. So I'm like a big fan of serapeptase. It's breaking down the scar tissue. Plus, a lot of the sports people use it because it's great for, I mean, obviously when we're training really hard, you'll be making more scar tissue as well, if we put it in simple English. And also, you know, it's a great anti-inflammatory. So that's one for endometriosis, in terms of supplements, I think that's a really good one.
Can you just spell it? Is it serapeptase? Serapeptase? Is that what it's called?
Yes,
okay.
Serapeptase. And you get it in different strengths, Matt, but I use 250,000 IU first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and you wait maybe about an hour before you take anything else.
Is this something that's available? I'm just looking. I don't see it on the Napier's website. So where would you recommend this?
It won't be. No, it won't be. Some of the supplements I recommend are not. They're kind of the more specialist things. You won't find there.
Okay.
I think I use one called Nature's Aid, if that's helpful.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
Nature's Aid. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name. Yeah, I think it's Nature's Aid is one of them. There's different brands.
And Nutrimetics, who's another reputable herbal blend. We love Nutrimetics too. Yep, they sell it as well, it looks like. So Nutrimetics is, you know, a big player in the Lyme community. So very, very helpful 2 brands there. So a couple other questions. I just realized how long, you know, we've had you on, but I have a couple other questions I want to ask you. So when it comes to herbs, we talked about treating antimicrobials, right? Japanese knotweed, cat's claw.
Yeah.
We talked about, you know, all the things. We talked about cryptolepis. But now I really want to focus on the emotional support. You talked about ashwagandha, maybe mixing it with coconut oil, which helps with absorption. You talked about the powder blend. I learned a lot about dosing and how you recommend 5 grams. And I think, you know, that's something where if people aren't getting the benefit, they should slowly increase and see if it helps them with their nervous system. Yeah. I do believe that's a huge component in the Lyme healing journey. But what else can people do from an emotional side? Because we know Lyme causes brain inflammation. We know it causes bugs in the brain. We know it causes depression just because when you're so sick, it's inevitable that you're going to get depressed. What can people do from a natural standpoint with supplements to help support their emotional well-being, their mental health, anxiety, depression, you know, you name it? You know, give us some recommendations there for people.
Okay. There's some really beautiful herbs. My absolute favorite, first up, just before you even saying it, is a herb called Passiflora, passion flower. It's my absolute favorite herb. I mean, I use it for children. I use it for adults. It's just a beautiful, I mean, Google it and see how beautiful the flower is. It's absolutely gorgeous herb. So I use that a lot. I mean, it's a nervine, which means it's obviously going to support the nervous system.
Is it a adaptogen as well, like ashwagandha?
No, it's more. I mean, I suppose no, it's not. It's more gentle. It's calming the nervous system. It's just taking it all down. That's the way I could. If I did a sound for it, it would be like just taking it all down a notch. It just
Yeah.
calms the whole nervous system down. Um, so let me see if I can find you a folklore story about passion flower.
Yeah, while you're looking, I'm looking on Google. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Everybody should go to Google and just Google passion flower and Google image search
I
it. It
mean,
is
look,
a
it's
beautiful
beautiful.
flower. Oh my
It's
goodness.
so
Yes.
beautiful. It's just look at it and you can just see like, wow, what is that doing in the body? It's
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous, isn't it?
And the same
Um,
idea, there's a with passion flower, it looks like it's actually the herb, and I guess you'd make a tea out of it, right? On Napier's on your
yeah, you
shop
can.
portal.
Again, you can take it in herbal. You can take it as a dry herb. So you could take it as a tincture. I don't know if they have a glycerite in it. Not all the herbs come in glycerites, but it just depends what they have it in.
What would you do with the actual herb? Like you'd have to make a tea out of it. It looked like it literally comes like with like ground up herbs, like is how you're selling it on Napier. So that's something you'd have to like
So what
use. And
would you do?
yeah, how
So
would you
what?
use it?
So what? If it's a dry herb, what you would do is take 10 grams, which would be like 2 teaspoons. Put that into a cup of boiling water, and then you can let it steep for say 5 minutes, and then drink it. If you want to really make your tea strong, you can steep it, leave it overnight, let it sit for the whole night, and then strain it the next morning. It will really get all the
Nice.
constituents out of it. And if you really want to get the juice out of it totally, you can actually cook it for 15 minutes and then let it sit
Huh.
overnight. There's lots of different ways. They call
Wow.
it decocting. So you can decoct the herbs as well. Um, Usually they use decocting when it's a root. So if it's like licorice, for example, is a root, you would decoct it. It just means you're putting it in the pan and simmering it. Whereas you
Hmm.
don't generally do that with a leaf, but you can. So just something on passion flower found here is that passion flower derives its name from the resemblance of the center of the flower to the cross and the crown of thorns, symbolizing the passion of Christ. And
Hmm.
it was discovered by the Spanish explorers in Peru.
Wow.
Just some
I, I
random
I love all these.
information
I
for
love
you.
these. Now, the passion flower tincture is different than the passion flower fluid extract because the extract is more potent and you would take less of it, I believe. Is
Yes,
that correct? Okay,
yes,
got
yes,
it.
yes.
Now, I would have to
Quite a
ask
jump.
because I love to experiment and surprisingly, Rich is gonna make fun of me a little bit here. I used to be afraid of everything, and in fact, I just took
Yes,
today. We from Dr. Turnpaul. I bought a whole bunch of supplements, and Rich, you didn't buy yours yet, Rich, but you need to because I started taking mine and I love them. So his extinguisher product is great. So I want to buy some of these to try them out for high stressful environments, just antimicrobial if I'm not feeling well, right?
yeah,
Can you take passion flower with ashwagandha? Like you can mix these things, and is there a risk if you
yeah,
mix these things, or because they're all natural, it's okay to do some passion flower with some ashwagandha, with some turmeric, with some
yeah. You
adaptogens,
could.
like that's okay.
That's okay. I think it should be all right. I mean, you can go. You could go a little bit crazy. You could go a little bit, too much. But I don't think you're going to do any harm. I mean, yes, I wouldn't go too crazy because
Okay,
you might be doing two different actions. Do you know what I
right.
mean? You might be taking something that's going to give you anabolic strength and, this kind of thing. And then you're trying to take something that's trying to calm the nervous system at the same time. You're not going to do harm. But I'm
Right.
saying there
Yes.
should be a little bit of thought behind it, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. Yeah, right. You're not.
Yeah.
You don't want to make people fearful. You're not trying to say you're going to hurt yourself.
No,
You're saying you may do
no.
one thing to help rebuild your muscles, and then that's sort of more of an upper. And then you're also doing something as a
Yeah.
downer, and they're kind of
Yeah.
counteracting each other. So you have to put some thought
Yeah.
into what you're doing. So if you're having
Yeah.
stress, you want to do things that are more relaxing. If you're trying to go and have okay, I want to be able to rebuild muscle because of the damage done from mine, that's going to be maybe a different approach. You
Yeah.
got to be thoughtful. I
Yes.
totally get what you're saying.
Yes. But I don't think you're going to do, you're not going to do damage if you took passion flower to ashwagandha and that. No.
No.
Um, and then I was going to say an absolutely beautiful herb as well is a herb called Leonoris cardiaca, which is motherwort. And
Motherwort.
motherwort is beautiful. it's just beautiful if you need some emotional support. She's really, really gentle on the heart. It like just makes you feel a little bit of love, you know. I always put a little bit of Leonoris in. I think it's a very special herb. So that's Leonoris cardiaca. Let me see if I
Motherwort.
can
I got it.
find.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, motherwort.
Motherwort glycerite. So I see you have motherwort
That's it.
glycerite. All right.
Yeah.
So let me just see if I can
And just
find.
motherwort's just gentle, you know, we all need a bit of love. And let me see if I can find you a story about
Oh yeah. Oh, and that
motherwort.
there's a fluid extract, a tincture, and a glycerite for that as well, it looks like, which is great.
Yeah.
And that's just another thing for emotional support. It's another natural herb from the environment that's going to help you have a calming environment, more emotional stability, correct?
Yeah, and also just funny enough, we're talking about the reproductive system, that motherwort's also an antispasmodic and has an affinity for the uterus, which makes sense really. If it's motherwort, you know what I mean? It got an
Yeah.
affinity with the womb. And it enhances fertility. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
What about when it
She
comes from a
can't.
hormonal? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, you go on, Matt. Sorry.
I was going to say, well, from a hormonal standpoint, like if it's helpful for a female with the reproductive system, are there things that can happen? Is it not so good for a man, but good for a woman? Like things like motherwort, meaning will it like maybe increase estrogen or do things in a man that weight may not be as good as for a woman? How do these things work when it comes to male versus female and herbs that may have different kind of impacts? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's again what I was saying earlier on is that it's, the herbs might have 2, 3, 4 different actions. So I'll give you an example. Like it's good for the reproductive system, but she's also good for the nervous system. She's bitter and cooling, so she's also good for acidity and heartburn. Right? She's also good. She's very good for anything with the heart, like helping with palpitations and that. But if the herb goes into the body and you don't need it, it won't be done.
So essentially, if you don't need
it's an
yes,
understanding of how herbs work inside the body. You know what I mean? So it's not
yeah,
gonna it's not like medicine where you take it and it's gonna push that pathway, if that
right.
makes sense.
So I think an important note here is low risk, right? Extremely minimal risk, because if you take it and you don't need the benefit from it, it just simply won't do anything. But if you do need the benefit from it, it'll help balance whatever imbalance you have in your system. So it's not like I'm taking a drug and it's causing some reaction regardless, right? So these are things we can gently play with and experiment with proper guidance and see, what our body responds well to and know where we need support essentially.
Yeah.
All right.
And Matt, so also this is like a double-edged sword I'm going to give you now. But I mean, I have some patients that start on the herbs and we literally have to start with 5 drops. And your regular dosing would be 100 drops 3 times a day. And today I've seen a lady that's super, super, super sensitive, and we're working on one herb at a time because we can't even get to that stage where we're putting them together to get in one mix. They can't go in together yet. So I'm working with her one at a time. I think today she was telling me on the milk thistle, she buys the powder and puts a little bit into a capsule. That's kind of how sensitive people can be. And then other people are fine on the 100 drops 3 times a day. So I'm just saying as well, there's a bit of a double-edged sword, just.
Yeah. And it starts slow and then work your way up. Yes.
Yeah. Start slow, go low, and start slow and go low is
right.
Always kind of the
even though these are herbs, they are antimicrobials, and even if they're indirect, they're supporting our immune system to kill things off. And if we're extremely sensitive, it might be causing a Herxheimer reaction through some of these mechanisms, right? So I think that is an important note to start slow.
Yeah.
Okay. What my last question before Rich picks up again is, what would you recommend from a pain standpoint? Many Lyme patients suffer from chronic pain as well, right? Whether it be joint pain or just full on inflammation, knee pain, leg pain, back pain, hip pain, you name it, right? What would you recommend there from an herbal standpoint?
Okay. So there's a lovely, lovely product from Just Herbs, which we've actually just done. The Clade Clinic have just done we've just done a study, a small little study. We've done a small study with 25 patients. We're just at finishing stage, and then we've got to collate all the evidence on it. But it's a product called AHA, AHA, Sublime AHA, and we've had some really good feedback on it. Actually, Monica put this formula together. Monica, that you're saying, Monica Wild.
Monica Wild, yes, yep.
Yeah, so it's fantastic for severe pain. I'll just talk a little bit about what's in it. It's got hops in it. It's got a nettle root, excuse me. It's got Scutularia lateriflora, another lovely herb. Scoot lat is really good for, especially with this, the mind talking a lot. It's really good for that, but also it's good for pain. There's frankincense in it. There's cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is fantastic. It blocks the P receptors. So it's really good for pain. Even if you just wanted to take cayenne capsules or tablets on their own. And it's got some deglycerized licorice in it and a little bit of ginger. It's a really lovely product, and we've really had some good feedback on it. So we're just waiting for all of our 25 patients to be done, and we can collate some proper data on it. But we use it for patients with neuralgia, myalgia, and the thing is you can take it together with regular painkillers. There's no contraindication. And you can take, we recommend start with 1-3 times a day, increase to 2-3 times a day, and don't go more than 8 a day. But you can take it with, if you're taking other pain relief as well. There's no danger with it. It's actually a lovely product.
So Angela, this is a perfect transition for us because I want to talk to you about your aha moment when you had gotten to the end of your healing journey and you learned more about who you were. You went from the fashion industry to the healing industry, both artistic endeavors. And when you got to the end of this journey, you learned what God made you to do and what you were very good at doing and who it is that you're supposed to serve. So share that with us. Share with us how you went on your journey of service and who you're serving and how you know that you were made to serve the people that you're serving in the way that you're serving them.
I feel it's just, going through that much pain and that much not understanding what's going on. And, and then starting to study, nutrition and herbs and all of these things, and then going, actually, the body's like amazing. It's really beautiful and really amazing. And we've become detached from that with Lyme disease because we're somewhere else and we're in so much pain or whatever we're going through, whether it's gut, however it's manifesting. And I think that by studying, it kind of made me feel like I kind of fell in love with the body again, and was like, because I learned all these amazing things it was doing. I was like, wow, it's amazing. It's like amazing. It can heal itself. It can do this. I mean, and this is what kept me going. I kept saying, in 7 years, I'm going to have a whole new body. In 7 years, I've got new bones. I've got a new skin. I've got new hair. And I was like, if I can have a new body in 7 years, I'm a different person. I've got to get rid of this Lyme. Whatever. I didn't realize at the time it was Lyme, but I was like, you're going to have a whole new body. How can you not heal yourself? How can you not have overcome whatever you've gone through? So that kind of, and that's what my teaching taught me. And then really the only word I can think of is that it's to give people hope. Forget everything else. If you're spending an hour in that consultation with somebody, is to give them hope and say to them, I believe that you're going to get well. If you don't believe it, I believe it. I know it can happen because the body's an amazing thing. So maybe the aha moment is that it's hope,
So if folks wanted to work with you and they wanted the hope and the aha moments, how could they get in touch with you and either through social media or other means?
So we've got the Clade Clinic's got a website called cladeclinic.com, and we have as I said, there's 7 of us working together in the team, and actually just to say that Monica does all the research. Monica is a research herbalist, so everything that we do, we've got papers there in our G Drive. We share all new things that are coming in. So just to say that, and we've got Kim is our medical secretary. She mans all the emails and kind of keeps us all right and keeps us in place. We all need a Kim. And Kim's email is support@cladeclinic.com. So that's really the Clade Clinic. And obviously, as you know, that Matt's mentioned, we connected with Napier's. We use the Just Herbs products. Yeah.
Angel, can you spell Clyde Clinic? I just want to make sure I get the right website, and I link it in the show notes here, and I'm just having a hard time finding it.
Okay, it's CLAID. It sounds very, very Scottish.
CLAIDCLINIC.com.
Yes.
Got it. And it's got a green banner, the Clyde Clinic,
Yes,
COVID, Lyme, and infectious disease. Your path to better health starts here. Okay, I got it. And we're going to link this in the show notes as well. We're also going to link every product we discussed, because I think there's a lot of value there, on both the napiers.net and also the Just Herbs as well. And then we're going to link your main website too, and encourage everybody to partner with you and utilize some of those products. But thank you for giving me that website.
No, that's great. Thanks so much for having me. It's been really special.
Well, thank you.
It's been very special.
It's been special for us as well. So Angela Ritchie, MacRitchie, thank you very much for spending time with us and our community here at Tick Boot Camp.
It's an absolute pleasure. And please let me know about the ashwagandha.
We will keep you posted.